Hey everybody, and welcome back to our Bible study. Today, Genesis chapter 22 in 5 minutes. Forgive any background noise that you hear. Apparently, Bob the Builder is living underneath of us and started a construction project, so hopefully there won't be too much noise, but if there's a little bit of hammering, that's what that is. So Genesis chapter 22, when did the events of this chapter take place? Well, Abraham, who we've been talking about for a while, he was born about 2,000 years before Jesus. When he was 100 years old, his son Isaac was born, and that would be approximately 1,896 BC. And although we're not told exactly how old Isaac was during this story, we know that he was old enough to speak, but Abraham also still referred to him as a boy. So maybe somewhere between, 5 to 15 years old maybe. In terms of our main characters, we have, of course, Abraham. Then we've got Abraham's son, Isaac. And then we have Nahor, who's actually Abraham's brother. Milcah, who is Nahor's wife. And then Rebekah, the granddaughter of Nahor. And we'll talk more about Rebekah in Genesis chapter 24. In regards to our map and where the events of this chapter took place, at the beginning of the chapter, Abraham and Isaac are going to make a journey to the land of Moriah. And you can see Mount Moriah on the map on the PDF. Now, after returning from Moriah, Abraham lived in a place called Beersheba. Chapter 22 contains a pretty famous Bible story. God told Abraham to offer his son Isaac as a sacrifice. This is verses 1 through 19 of this chapter. God tested Abraham's faith by telling him to go to the land of Moriah to kill Isaac and to offer him as a sacrifice. So the next day, Abraham got up early and he began the journey to Moriah with 2 servants and his son. And after a 3-day journey, they arrived at the designated mountain. Leaving the 2 servants behind, Abraham and Isaac start ascending up the mountain with wood and fire. And Isaac asked his father, he said, "Look, we have wood and fire, but why haven't we brought an animal for this sacrifice?" And Abraham simply replied to him, "God will provide." When they got to the place that the Lord specified, Abraham built an altar, laid wood on it, bound Isaac, and laid Isaac on top of the wood. And Abraham took a knife, put it in his hand. He was about to kill his son, but the angel of the Lord stopped him. The angel of the Lord said to him, quote, "Do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." So looking up, Abraham saw a ram that was caught in a thicket. And so he offered that ram as a sacrifice instead of Isaac. Because of Abraham's obedience and his faith, the angel of the Lord told him that his offspring were going to be multiplied, that they would have victory over their enemies, and that all of the nations of the earth would be blessed through them. And after this, Isaac returned home and he lived in Beersheba. Now, the last couple verses, 20 through 24, tell us about the family of Nahor. Nahor was actually Abraham's brother, and we learn that from chapter 11, verse 26 and 29. A short genealogy of Nahor is listed. 8 of Nahor's children with a woman named Milcah are mentioned. 4 of Nahor's children with Reumah, his concubine, are mentioned. Rebekah, the granddaughter of Nahor, is also mentioned, and she's given special attention because later in Genesis chapter 24, she is actually going to marry Isaac, Abraham's son. And so that's chapter 22. Now let's talk about our application. God often requires big sacrifices from those who want to follow him. When Jesus was on the earth and when he was preaching, he required a total commitment from those who wanted to be his disciples. If we want to be like Abraham and have faith like the first century disciples, we need a level of commitment that is comparable to theirs. God isn't looking for hobbyist disciples. He's looking for people who are ready to sacrifice anything and everything to commit to being his servants.